Hello and welcome to this week's reading vlog. I realised I don't need to sit so far left. So this week I am doing a 5-star predictions week. That's how I'm choosing which books to read, because as you know, last month I had not a single 5-star, this many. That's how many 5 stars I had last month. Hey beautiful girl. So I'm picking books that I think could be 5 stars. And we'll see how we go, because I'm dying for a 5-star read at this point. I need the hit. So the first book that I picked for 5-star prediction was A Wolf and the Witch. This is the third in a series. So in this series in general, you've got witches, you've got gods, you have dead gods resurrected from their graves. It's a very high fantasy, sort of dark fantasy, sexy kind of series. The book centers around sisters, the Bloodgood sisters, the main sister being Raina and her partner Alexis, whom I adore them, love them. This third book wasn't about them. So this third book is meant to be sort of like a bit of a novella, but it's quite long for a novella. And in this one, we're focusing on Raina's sister and the wolf god Neri. It was interesting. It's definitely smutty. It was quite raunchy. I was not expecting that. There was a scene, so there is sort of blood play in this, but the one that had me sort of blushing like a maiden was a monogamous triple penetration scene, which was done in a way that I've never read that before. So yeah, it was different, but like I said, there was some plot going on. There were some events and explanations of things that have happened, so there was a little bit of elucidation in that aspect, but it was quite heavy on the sexy times. Was it a 5-star? Not quite. I did give it 4 stars though, so I'm still very happy with that, because 4 stars for me is a good time, a really good time. I really enjoyed myself. So it would have been higher if there'd been like maybe more plot, less sex, but I did enjoy it. Neri is basically a horny hound dog. He from the start. But yeah, it was fun. Like, look, I would have probably preferred a bit more of a slow burn. I guess it is a slow burn, but when they decide like it's time. At first I thought, is this a dream? You know, like that happens a lot. It turns out the guy is dreaming or the girl is dreaming and it's not real. But no, it was real, it was happening. I was like, okay, I guess we're doing it now. So yeah, I did enjoy it, but I'm looking forward to getting back to Raina and Alexis, because those are my baes. Not a 5-star, but a 4-star, so I can't complain. And then I decided to pick up the audiobook for The Jaguar. This book is in every Australian bookstore right now. It is just being marketed to the death, and it piqued my interest. It's called The Jaguar. It's a book of poetry. Now, poetry is very hit and miss with me. It either strikes a chord and resonates, or it doesn't. So in this particular book of poetry, it's not so much a collection of poems as it is a narrative. So all of the poems focus around the diagnosis, the journey, and the subsequent passing of the author's father from Parkinson's disease. So it is all about that. For me, it wasn't really for me, but I could see how a lot of people might enjoy it, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. So with poetry, it's either like, oh, 5 stars, like I love this book, this poetry speaks to me, or it's just like, yeah, it just wasn't for me. So wasn't for me, wasn't a 5-star read. The next book that I'm picking up is This Is How You Lose the Time War. I have also seen this all over booktube. A lot of people either love it, like really love it, or don't like it at all. It's a sci-fi novel. You've got 2 enemies, red and blue, both of whom are women. I don't know if they're human or not. It's a bit unclear at the moment. The way this is written, it's very thick and syrupy. It's hard to read a lot of at one time. I do have to put the book down. I can't just sit here and just make my way through it in one sitting. I can't read it like that. I read a couple of chapters and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put it down now. I'm not sure about it. I don't love the way it's written. So that's sort of going against it at the moment, but I'm still interested enough to keep on reading. So it's set in the future, and these two opposing sides are corresponding via letters, and I believe that eventually they fall in love. So I am going to push through and keep reading, because I do kind of want to see what the hype is about. At this point, I don't think it's going to be a 5 stars, but it may turn around. I'm only a couple of chapters in, so that's not always a telling sign with a 5-star book. Sometimes it just, something switches and it's like, oh my God, I love this. So yeah, we'll see how we go with that. Today I am heading out. I've got some appointments. I'm feeling much better. I can still feel it in my chest though. You know, my voice is not quite right yet, and my breathing is a bit odd. So that was a full-on flu. Like I said, I haven't had the flu or COVID. I haven't had anything like that for over 8 years. And one of the viewers said that sometimes when you haven't had a flu in so long, the next time you get one, it can hit you really hard. And that's what happened. It hit me real hard, but my appetite is back, which is fantastic. I was wondering, I'm like, how long is this gonna last? Where I don't want to eat. Not that long, not that long. I'm back to my regular feeding schedule. So I am going to go out to a cafe today. Yay. Because I may as well, since I'm going to be out running errands. So I am going to do that. Besides that, in my life at the moment, I'm making an oracle deck. I finished my Persephone tarot deck, now I'm making an oracle deck. So I'm doing that creatively. But I am quite stressed at the moment. My cat Willow, who you've heard me mention before, started having issues with the kitten. She escalated those issues and she did bite the kitten and puncture an artery. The kitten's okay. She's made a full recovery. It was a very traumatic experience, so there was blood everywhere. And I had to get a cat behaviorist in, because while I had the kitten in my bedroom with me, while she was recovering and healing and keeping her separate, Willow then turned aggressive towards one of the other cats. So I had a behaviorist come in, and at first they had me separate the kitten and my cat Sylvie from Willow, and then they had me do 5 sessions a day of like them all together playing. This really did not work very well. During those play sessions, Willow was not interested in playing. She just wanted to get to the cats and attack them. So they were very stressful times. And then outside of that too, she seemed to be showing more signs of distress. She was always like stalking and prowling and on edge, and she has started eating less. So after 2 weeks, I said, hey, this isn't working. This is actually really negative. So I sent her videos of Willow's behavior with and alone. And she said that Willow needs to be separated. So I need to now set Willow up in a home base, so in a room by herself, take her out with no other cats. So doing site swapping for 2 weeks, and then to do slow introductions with Willow and the other cats one at a time, and see if that goes. But there has been the difference with Willow when she is not around the other cats is like her usual self. So she's happy, she's playful, she's affectionate, she's out in the common areas. So it was really shocking to me to see, obviously to realize that her behavior of always separating herself and sleeping in a closet all day was not just a quirk of Willow's. It was because she didn't want to be around the other cats. So I'm doing my best to see if this situation can improve, if Willow can be happy in a multi-cat household. I'm in a week into doing the new way of separating Willow, but part of me just feels and knows that Willow would be happiest in a single cat household. I don't think, I'm sort of mentally preparing myself for the possibility, hey Willow, of rehoming her, finding her a house where she can just be the only cat. So I'm sort of, trying to prepare myself for that, because that's a very upsetting and heartbreaking thing. But at the same time, I want her to be her happiest, most confident, most relaxed, healthiest self. And if I don't think that this house is going to bring that out in her, then I've got to do what's best for her. Because like I said, when she's not around the other cats, she's so happy and curious and playful. And I'm upset at myself for not realizing that her behavior, how, when I got all the other cats was indicative of her being unhappy. I just didn't, it took for her to start attacking the other cats for me to be like, what's going on? Are you okay? But like I said, good news is like, there's been no more attacks, obviously, because they're all separated. Willow is happy when she's on her own. It's stressful though, there's always got to be doors locked, and anyone who has cats knows that cats hate shut doors, whether it's the cat that's in the room that's locked or the cat's on the other side of the room. None of them want the doors locked. So that is stressful. I'm always having to kind of make sure that I balance having time with Willow and having time with the other cats and moving them around to make sure all the cats get access to all areas of the house at some point. So it is like almost like a full-time job at the moment. But yeah, I am going to do the introductions in another week and see how she is, if she becomes stressed, if there are attacks, and if it does not work for maybe 2 weeks after that, I may have to find a home for my beautiful Willow. It's like, it's one of those things where if I knew where she was going, like if a friend or a family member could take her, and I've already asked because I thought that would be the best situation. I could see her still all the time. I would know where she is and I would know that she's being taken care of. But unfortunately, no friends and family can take her. So I would have to go the route of the rescues. And I know that they generally are really good at vetting owners and finding good people. But it's just the unknown, like, is she okay? I can't even talk about it because I get upset. But yeah, I kind of feel bad because I sort of forced her to be in a multi-cat household, and I don't think she's a cat that wants to be in a multi-cat household. She was sort of okay with one cat. They didn't really interact much at all. Both of them are very solitary. But then, yeah, when I got the other two cats, obviously she excluded herself from the whole house, from everybody. And yeah, I feel horrible that she's been stressed this whole time and I wasn't aware. But so that's what I'm dealing with at the moment. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I need to do, my thing is doing what's best for her, not like what I want, what's going to be best for her, whether that is managing to stay here. But as more time goes on, I'm seeing that that's less and less likely, or, finding a home where she can be the center of attention and doesn't have to compete for resources. I think it just stresses her out way too much, even though I have, 5 litter trays and I have 5 feeding bowls and I, a million cat trees and windows and vertical runs. Like, I've done everything that the textbooks say to make sure, all the cats have plenty of resources and people and time, attention. But, I think sometimes temperaments, some people just don't want to be around other people. Some cats just don't want to be around other cats, but we'll see how we go. I'm just sort of like soaking up my time with her as much as possible, just in case. But anyway, I can't talk about it anymore because I'm going to start bawling. But that's what I'm going through at the moment. That's what's taking up most of my time. But yes, I'm off to appointments today and to a cafe. So I will touch base with you later on. Hello, go down, that's better. So I have continued reading This Is How You Lose the Time More, and I read 50% of it and decided that's enough for me. So with this book, it is sci-fi. It is kind of set in a world where there are two super soldiers from opposing factions and they are going back in time or different timelines and things like that to alter things to try to win this war. It's very hard for me to tell you what this book is about because the way it was written. So it's done in a very flowery, lyrical prose. And when you've got something that's already confusing, like I need to understand what's the world building in this, what's going on, what's happening, and then you're laying that on top of it, I was just confused. I just sat there the whole time thinking, what is happening? I don't understand the rules, what occurred in the past, what's happening now, what this war is even about. I don't know. And in terms of the love story, so they've got these back and forth letters, and I just wasn't buying that they would be falling in love over these letters. So I decided to DNF it, but I'm just going to read you a bit so you can understand. This is one of the more clearer sections. So when the writing is a little easier to understand, it gets way more convoluted and obscure than this, but here we go. I never would have believed your party would risk working strand 8827 this far down thread until I recognized your distinctive signature. I shudder to imagine an equal and opposite incursion. May casualty forbid commandant ever dispatch me to one of your viney hivey alfwells profusely floral, all arcing elder trees, neural pollen, bees gathering memories from eyes and tongue, honey libraries dripping knowledge from the comb. I harbour no illusions to succeed. You would find me in an instant, crush me faster. I'd walk a swath of rot through your verdancy, no matter how light I tried to step. I have a Cherenkov green thumb. So that's one of the more simpler, easier to understand passages. So you can imagine like what it is like. It was just, to read this book, I would have to sit there and like comb through the words and understand, okay, this is what they're alluding to. But like I said, I just couldn't get the narrative. I couldn't get what was happening, what the war was about. I didn't understand. And it just became too frustrating to read. I'm like, this book is going to ask too much of me, too much of my time. And I'm not engaged. I'm not feeling the connection between these two women. So decided to DNF that one. The next book I picked up, I think it's called The Secret Society of Tea and Treason. It's a third in the series. So I think I rated the first book 3 stars, didn't love it, but the second in the series I rated 5 stars, adored it. So in this world you've got pirates and witches, and they're basically the same, but they are enemies and they do not like each other. And in this installment, it's actually about the human agents that have been placed in these societies to sort of uncover the wrongdoings and the illicit criminality that is occurring. So far we've just been introduced to the 2 human agents. They had a little tete-a-tete together. We'll see how it goes. I normally love this series because at the beginning of each chapter, the author writes little phrases of what's going to occur in the chapter, and I normally find it hilarious. There is a lot of humor in this, I found in the past anyway. This one I found it's a little slow to get into so far. I haven't gotten caught up in it yet, but I'm being hopeful, so we'll see how it progresses. But that is all I have to update you on today. Good morning. It is an absolutely beautiful day in Melbourne. It's a beautiful winter's day, sunny and not too freezing and cold. So I'm looking forward to actually stepping outside. We're going to visit my cousin and my family today because they've rescued some bunny rabbits. So we're all very excited to go and cuddle some bunnies. And this morning I made some delicious gingerbread white chocolate chip cookies. They were really good. They were meant to be big, like it's just meant to make I think 6 to 8 cookies out of the batch, but because I'm feeding a lot of people, I made smaller cookies and they were still good, but I think they would be phenomenal if they were massive. Let's see how I went with the rest of my reading. So I read Slaying the Conqueror. This is set in the Crown of Nyaxia series by Carissa Broadbent. I love the first book, didn't so much love the second book. I liked the other little mini standalones. She's doing a lot of standalones set in this world. And with this one, you have Sylvina, who is part of this organization where they worship a god, and part of the worship of this god is to like sacrifice their eyesight. So they all wear blindfolds and they've like scarred and mutilated their eyes. She's also sacrificed a finger to her god, and she's got scars all over her body. A lot of the outside world consider their fellowship to be a cult. I wouldn't say that's entirely wrong, but that's what she does, and they're trained assassins and warriors, so they go out and they assassinate people. And basically she's on a mission to assassinate a fuckboy, and a horde of vampires comes and starts to conquer the land. And in their initial penetration, they blow stuff up, and in the explosion, one of her sisters is killed. So she sees her sister's dead body, and then she sees the vampire conqueror step onto the land, and she's about to bow and arrow him to death, but her superiors are like, stand down, retreat, and come back. And it's something that she just really has an issue with, but she ends up relenting and going. But it just burns her up inside that this vampire king is free when she had the shot to kill him. So with her story, in this cult, they recruit like 4 to 5-year-old girls. And they do that so that these girls, when they grow up into women, they don't remember their past at all. So pretty much the order is their family. But with Sylvina, she was recruited at 10 years of age. So she very much remembers her past, and she's filled with a desire for vengeance against certain things that happened to her in her childhood. And there's certain ties to family, and it's sort of considered her flaw. She's just feeling this anger and these emotions, whereas all the other sisters seem to be quite like dead inside basically and just live for the order. So with the vampire conqueror, the head chick ends up sending her on a mission to infiltrate his camp, get herself hired as his seer, and find out all these things about him and then kill him. So naturally she's stoked, she goes, kills the other seer, and is recruited by them. So in this situation, you've got enemies to lovers, obviously, but you've also got her like being a double agent where she's going in undercover and acting like as his captive. And it's an interesting dynamic, and I like it. So her love interest, I think his name is Atreus. Oh, I've forgotten his name, but I'll put it up if it's not Atreus. Is very stoic, very, emotionally guarded, but an absolute lethal killer. But oh my gosh, does he have a conscience? It seems that he does. And is he the evil that she thinks he is, or is perhaps her order maybe complicit in some things as well? It's one of those things where it's like, who's good, who's bad, who's morally grey? There is spice in this, and I like it. It's a very slow burn romance. Did I give it 5 stars? No, but I gave it 4.5. I had a really good time, guys. I stayed up an extra 2 hours past my bedtime so I could finish it. Is it like sort of a predictable fantasy book? Yeah, man, it is, but it involves gods and vampires and, assassins, and I love it. And I like this world. I like this sort of mythology that she set up in her Crown of Nyaxia series. So I really enjoyed my time. I liked these two. The male love interest is a little bland. Yeah, he's got some depth, but it was really more about Sylvina, and I liked her as a character. So I definitely got behind her. And yeah, I had a really good time. It's a good fantasy. So I will probably continue reading any of these like little mini standalones she does in her series, because I don't really like the main one, The Serpent and the Wings of Night was great, but the second one I didn't enjoy, and I don't want to read about those characters anymore. So I'm going to continue reading her little standalones, because so far both of the ones that I've read thoroughly enjoyed. The next book I picked up was Devotions by Mary Oliver. So this is a book of poetry, and it centers mostly around the theme of nature. So nature is the backdrop for everything else that she also explores, like grief and love and family and life purpose and meaning is all interwoven through the lens of nature. So it's definitely a book that I'll associate with like gratitude and reverence of the sacredness of nature and human life. I did enjoy it. I'll put up one of the poems that I liked the most. There were two of them. One was called The Sun, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but I think I took screenshots, so I'll just pop them up here. They were my favorites out of the whole collection. I will say that she did reference the Christian God in a lot of her poems, so if you don't like reading about that, then this isn't for you. But I also find, because this was such a large collection of her poetry, after you've read about half of them, they all start to sound a bit similar. You know, it's a bit more same of the same of the same. I started to sort of lose interest by the end, because it wasn't like she was talking, it wasn't like they changed in tone and theme. It was all, her poems have a homogeneousness about them. Like there's a very collective thread and theme with her poetry, whereas I know some other poets can be quite, their individual poems can be quite distinct from each other, whereas I feel like Mary Oliver's have a continuity about them, have a cohesiveness. They've got the similarity. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it, but it's not like, oh my God, this poetry just spoke to me and it's, you know, made me feel things. It's not a 5-star poetry read, but it's also not like, oh, I didn't like it at all. It was, yeah, there was a few poems that I enjoyed, and overall it was pleasing to read. So that was Mary Oliver's Devotions. Okay, so I was about to end the video and then realized I totally forgot to talk to you about the Secret Service of Tea and Treason. So in this book, you have two agents. You have Bixby and Alice, and they are sent undercover to infiltrate the pirates and stop a supposed assassination attempt on the Queen. This book was utterly ridiculous. So this whole series is a bit silly and nonsense and over the top, but this one was just taken to the nth degree. Bixby and Alice themselves are very straight-laced, rule followers, contained emotions type of people. And whilst I love one of the love interests being that way, I need it counterbalanced by maybe someone who's rebellious and a rogue and a rake. You know, I need the balance. But having two people being straight-laced and orderly and fastidious, it's not my favorite type of dynamic. So I didn't love this, because these books really are centered on whoever the main couple are. It's the romance angle. The world itself, like I said, is completely ridiculous, over the top, nonsensical, absurd. And for some reason, I just didn't love this one, to be honest. And I think I'm going to give it 3 stars. I still kind of enjoyed my time, but it didn't really do anything for me. So yeah, unfortunately, it was not a 5-star read. This has been pretty successful so far. I've gotten, I think, 2 books over 4 stars, and that's amazing for me. I just don't tend to get that many. I think out of all of the books I read last year, which was around 400 books, I think only 30 of them were 5 stars. So I don't give out 5 stars very often at all. And with me too, there are different 5 stars. There's 5 stars, and then there's 5-star shiny gold flashing. Oh my God. I know some people reference it as 6 stars. There are those books that are just, they just change your life and you can't stop thinking about them. So there are different levels, but I was just hoping for just a regular 5-star in this one. That's Willow. So the last book I chose was Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater, and I didn't really have any, I'm surprised I even put this on my 5-star predictions. The only reason that I chose it was because I don't have a lot of books on my TBR at the moment. I think it was only like 40 books. And this one, I didn't know anything about it besides the fact that it's about angels and fallen angels, which is one of my favorite themes. I love that paranormal genre. She's so cute. Yes, I do. You've got your claws stuck, don't you? Yes, you do. I have to trim her nails. And the cover's not great. I'm going to be honest. The artwork does not do anything for this book. But, oh my God, guys. Okay, so this is probably one of my most surprising reads of this year. So in this book, I would summarize it as Good Omens, which is a book, meets The Good Place, which is a TV series. In that you've got a fallen angel and an angel who have an unlikely friendship. So the fallen angel's name is Gadriel, and they're the angel of small temptations, like having that last piece of chocolate. And then you've got Barakiel, who is an angel, but considered like the gambler's angel, I think, of like good fortune and luck. I can't quite remember what their role was. and they're in a friendship. And in this world, in this book, angels can choose their gender for the day, and it's considered gauche if you choose the same gender as another angels are considered wearing the same outfit. And Barakiel just loves to choose the same gender as Gadriel, which really pisses them off. So anyway, I love that aspect of them just changing their gender as they please. And Gadriel still goes by the same name no matter what gender they are. Anyway, they're at this coffee shop, and it turns out that Gadriel owes a big debt to Barakiel. And Barakiel said, I'm going to give you this mission, and if you succeed, I will completely clear your debts. So in the world, human beings add up sort of like sin points. They've got a scoreboard, and some people obviously are in the negative, some people are in the positive, depending on what it is. And in this world too, the reason that Gadriel fell is because they didn't agree with the system. They didn't agree with the scoring. For instance, they believe that eating chocolate shouldn't be a sin. People should not get points deducted for eating chocolate. And there's like this conundrum where if there's a last piece of something and you eat it, you're a sinner. But if you don't eat the last piece and you throw it in the bin, you're also a sinner. So they're like, how are you supposed to win? So that's why they chose to fall, because they just did not agree with how things were set up and could no longer follow the rules. So they also used to be a guardian angel, which is all the little passages about guardian angels loving the humans that they're protecting, and it being the most heartbreaking thing because eventually those humans die. Got me in the feels. So in this book too, I love the way it was formatted. At the end of like each chapter, there would be footnotes, and they were always so fascinating, and I love them. If I remember to put up images of like examples of them, I will. Especially the ones about atheists. I just giggled. So this book had me lolling so much. It also had me crying. It was moving. It was delightful. I'll get back to the plot of the story. So basically, Gadriel gets assigned to this woman who's just considered too good for her own good, Holly Harker. And she just doesn't seem to give in to temptation. She doesn't seem to sin. And Barakiel wants Gadriel to tempt her and lower her score a little bit, because she's basically in the saint-like echelon. So he gets assigned to her, and I won't give anything else away, but I just loved this story. It was so easy to read. I love the way it was written. Like I said, it was so funny to me, and yet it was poignant. It talked about themes like morality and ethics and love and loss and grief and family and community and finding yourself. It was just so many themes discussed, but in this just really entertaining way. I loved it. I loved it so much. And Gadriel is a salty bitch, and I'm here for it. I adore them. Yes, absolutely fabulous. And I don't want to spoil anything else, but this book was just it for me. So it's 5 stars. I actually found a 5-star book in this vlog, and I'm so happy. So I have read Olivia Atwater's book, Half a Soul, and I actually didn't like that, which I don't know if I should give it another reread, because I didn't write any notes about it, any reviews, because with Goodreads, there was many years I didn't do any reviews at all, but then there was also years where I just selected whether I read the book or not. I didn't even rate them. I just said read. So I don't know what my thoughts were about it, but I love this. This was amazing. I would love to see this as a TV show. Wormwood is also in this. If you know Wormwood, you know. And I just love the interactions with the humans and the angels and the angels and the angels and the demons and the, you know, just the whole schmozzle. So yeah, I had an absolute wonderful time. It's not a shiny 5-star, but it's a 5-star, and I couldn't be happier. So small miracles came in to save the day, and like seriously, give it a read. It is such a good time. Maybe some people don't like the way it's written in the format, but I adored it. It was something different. And for me, it's, yeah, like I said, it was a combination of Good Omens and The Good Place. So I thought it was just really entertaining, and I loved it. So that's all the books that I read this week. I hope that wherever you are having a dazzling morning, afternoon, or evening. And as always, stay well, Star Child.